page 291. So, just as a beginning, you know that tonight is Yud Beis Tammuz and Yud Gimel Tammuz the following day. It's the day when our author, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak, the Frierdiker Rebbe, when he was liberated from his death sentence and his jail sentence. And in Chabad, we don't say Tachnun, both tomorrow, Tuesday, and Wednesday, Yud Beis Yud Gimel Tammuz. Although he got the news on Yud Beis Tammuz, he wasn't actually liberated till Yud Gimel Tammuz because of the offices were closed. There was a holiday of sorts, etc. So it's appropriate that we learn another Maamar of his. And as a follow-up to this Maamar, which we just learned, Matoiva Elecha Yaakov, which is a very important Maamar to use in our Avodas Hashem. So this Maamar too, Kol HaMayrich Be'echad, is another classic. I'm learning with you now, like classic Maamarim of the previous Rebbe, that when I was a young bacher, 16, 17, these were the Maamarim that we learned because they lent themselves to better understanding, because we were still very new to Chassidus. But as I learned them with you now, I could see that there's so much depth both in Chassidus and Avodas Hashem. And the lesson for us all is that it's important to relearn things that you learned when you were younger. Because the way you'll learn those same things now will be with a very, very different perspective. And you'll have so much more understanding. And in a way you'll really understand it, and you'll say, that's what it meant. That's what it meant. So it's a worthwhile investment in relearning things that you looked at when you were younger. So let's begin. 201. Kol HaMayrich Be'echad, the Gemara says, whoever is Mayrich, he lengthens the word Echad, Marichin Loi Yom V'Shneisav. Marichin Yom V'Shneisav, page 201. The Gemara says, when you say Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, and you stretch out the word Echad, your years, your days, and your years will be stretched out, will be longer. Omer Abacha Bar Yaakov comes along, Abacha Bar Yaakov, and he says, when that's true, uvedalis, if you put the emphasis on the dalit, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, not Echad, which people make a mistake, wrong, you'll see soon. But the arichus has to be, Rabacha says, on the dalit of Echad. And it's a little hard because Echad, dalit is dalit finished. So how do you say Echad? The ches is Echad. That's wrong, not the ches. The dalit is Echad. Echad. It's like almost not capable of stretching it out, but that's considered saying it a little longer than the norm. Okay. The harichas be'echad tzrichali is badalit. Omer Rav Ashi, says Rav Ashi, uvilvad shelo yachtoif beches. As long as he doesn't swallow the ches, because you could go echad, and all of a sudden you don't even hear the ches. Echad. You have to hear the ches, and when you say the dalit, you emphasize the dalit. Okay. That's the Gemara in Brachos. Comes along the Frierdiker Rebbe and he asks a question in Ma'away Harichos Be'echad. The Rebbe wants to understand what's this business of lengthening the Echad. I mean, we don't find such an idea in Torah, and yet the Gemara says this. What's the idea? Number 2, Ma'u Harichos Yom V'Shonim. What's the idea of having long days and long years? Now, right here you have to say to yourself, Rebbe, what do you mean? I want to live long. I want to live to 120. I want to live long. So the Rebbe knows that too. The Rebbe's question is, what's the arichos yoni on yomim? What does it mean to have a long day? You know, the expression, I had a long day, implies I'm tired and exhausted and I want to just sit on the couch and chill out with a nice iced tea. So what is it? So, arichas yomim, lengthening a long day, is much. It's not just about a physical thing. So that's the Rebbe's question. What is the spiritual counterpart? What's the spiritual idea of arichas yomim? And the Rebbe explained, the Mishu Maidich be'echod. The Gemara says, if you're Maidich, if you're lengthening in the word echod, Ma'arichon l'yom m'shnoisav, you get long days and long years. What's the connection between the two? Abracadabra? It's not abracadabra like we discussed last week about the gematrias. Everything has to make sense. So here too, Hillel, you learn a piece of Gemara. The Gemara, this is a Gemara. But you have to ask yourself, when you learn this Gemara, it's Agadita, right? It's stories of the Gemara. Stories of the Gemara have to make sense too. It's not, nonsense. It's not just, I have nothing better to say, and I want to just give an easy word, so I give you a story. It's not that way. We speakers, and darshanim and all that, that's the way we operate. But the Gemara and the sages of the Gemara, if they indeed connect this idea of lengthening echod to having long days and long years, there must be a connection between echod and the idea of long days. And the Rebbe's question is, subsequently, what's the connection? Moshe, is it clear? Hello? Is it clear? Yeah, before we go on, I want to make sure you guys understand the questions. The questions aren't just questions. Yes, you're innocent. What?
Spiritual counterpart to arichas yomim, as opposed to just simply, the physical obviously is arichas yomim. It's a very interesting question, actually. I've never actually thought about that before. What would be the spiritual counterpart of that?
And Moshe, and what's the connection to echad? And why? Through echad, if you put the emphasis and the arichas on echad, you're rewarded with arichas yomim. What does one have to do with the other? Yes, Yonis. Yonis, you want to say something?
I learned Maamar when I went in yeshiva. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I learned this Maamar when I was in yeshiva, and it's nice to be able to learn it again, from the perspective of
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. So.
And also, that on that long day, that one of the Chassidim of the Rebbe, but of course, for long days of the Rebbe, and he said he doesn't want long days to be able to sit and drink tea, and not with that, he wants to learn Torah, he wants to have a clear mind, even though he's going to be old.
Well, the actual, you're alluding to the story where the chassid's name was Rabbi Kusil of a city called Lepler. They used to call him Kusher instead of Kushya Lepler. So he came to the Alter Rebbe, for bracha was his Yom Haledes, and before the Alter Rebbe was able to give him the bracha, he said, "But Rebbe, remember, if the bracha means I should live long as a boor, no, thank you. I don't want such a bracha. I don't want to go into it now, but that story needs to be, there's also tremendous insight into that story. Could you imagine, Yoini, you come to the Lubavitcher Rebbe, who's the Alter Rebbe of our time, right? And the Rebbe is willing to give you a bracha for long life, and all of a sudden you put conditions on the bracha. No one would do that. First of all, who are we to tell a Rebbe how to give us a bracha? The whole story doesn't begin to make sense. If we knew that any tzaddik is blessing us for arichas yamim, we would run on all four. We would run, and we would take it. So how is it that this chassid gave the Alter Rebbe condition for the bracha? Yonason, did you ever wonder about that? Does it make... Okay. And the answer is that what Kusha wasn't giving him a condition. He was just voicing and saying, Rebbe, living like a boar is not a blessing. It's a curse. I came to you for a blessing. I didn't come to you for a curse. So therefore, it's tantamount to not getting a blessing at all. You made no offer to me. It's like sometimes someone gives you an offer and it's totally misplaced, and more so, it's no good for you. So it's not that the person gave you a blessing, but he didn't give you a good blessing. He gave you a curse. You could see Lepler was such a Oved Hashem that to him, life without Torah, life without Avodas Hashem, is a bore, is a curse. So he's not giving the Alter Rebbe condition. He's echoing, Alter Rebbe, you giving me a blessing? Remember, he's saying to him, I'm your chassid, I'm a servant of Hashem, and to me, anything less than living like a Yid with Torah and all that is a curse. It's a very, very deep perspective. Okay, back to the Maamar, because we'll never go further. Let's go further.
I just want to say it's meaningful to be learning this on Parshas Balak.
Why? Because...
It's all about the intention to curse that ends up in a blessing.
Very good, very good. Yes. Hilo, very good point. Thank you. Weiter, let's go further. Dihine Teves Echod, the letters of the word Echod, who bas gimel oisius. Right? This follows in line with what we learned earlier in the previous Maamar about letters and words, the combination of letters. So the Rebbe says here, you look at the word Echod, and it has three letters: Aleph, Ches, and Dalet. V'harichas hu ba'dalis. The harichas is in the Dalet. Uvilvad, and he quotes the Gemara, Shlo yechtav gamas haches. You shouldn't swallow the ches. B'tzarech love, so we must understand, here is his other question, Ma harichas ba'dalet, why does he emphasize the lengthening of Dalet? V'azarose shel Rav Ashi. And what's the warning of Rav Ashi to Rav Acha? Shelo yachtav as a ches. Make sure not to swallow that ches. The mikolzeh moving the arichas ba'dalet. For this we understand that the arichas na dalet hu dafka kishe'ein achaytav as a ches. You hear that? Avi. When is the arichas of the dalet important? As long as you don't swallow the ches. What does that mean? And again here, look at the way the Rebbe analyzes. I'm fascinated the way he takes a little simple piece of Gemara that every student in every yeshiva worldwide would learn and gloss over and go further. And he takes apart this from all sides. And look at the last question that he has is, Rav Ashi is saying that even if you emphasize the Dalet, but you swallow the ches, you don't get arichas yom v'shom. You don't get long life. In other words, you have to do two things at one time. Don't swallow the ches and lengthen the Dalet. And that, by the way, when you learn the Gemara, Avi, that's not the way you learn the Gemara. Normally, when you learn this Gemara, it's like two separate ideas. Hillel, right? When you learn this Gemara, Rav Acha says, emphasize the Dalet, and Rav Ashi says another point, don't swallow the ches. What the Rebbe is doing here, he's bringing them together. And he's saying that one depends on the other. If you lengthen the dalit while you swallow the ches, your lengthening of the dalit is gurnisht, is nada, efes. Very beautiful, very interesting how he looks at this piece of Gemara. You want to say something?
I mean, will we address Lamaisa, the question that the Gemara, sort of implicit in the Gemara, how do you do that with the Dalit, to be marich the Dalit when you can't do it physically?
Well, you can. I just told you. Echad is the yeah. What do you mean? That's the best you could do. Yes, Moshe.
Is the lashon of the Gemara that you need both together, or that's the Rebbe's Kiddush?
That's the Rebbe's Chiddush. Listen, I didn't learn the commentaries over there, but I believe it's the Rebbe's Chiddush. In other words, when you learn the Gemara, that's what I'm saying. It's like two separate ideas. You see, it's two different Tanoim. One's Rav Acha and one's Rav Ashi. And let me say this: even if it's not, if that's what Rav Ashi had in mind, but the Rebbe really, spells it out, So maybe I shouldn't say it's the Rebbe's Chiddush, but the way he puts it down here, to me, seems like he's really, bringing it out clear.
Okay, thanks.
Weiter. The Mikol ze moving the Arichas da Dalit who Davka shenichayte v'zeches. From this we understand that the Arichas and the Dalit is specifically Davka when you don't swallow the ches. Finished. Okay, so these are kind of the questions, and now we start. We're going on the journey. This saying of the Gemara, whoever lengthens the ches, who hemshech habraisa. This follows something that was said previously in that braisa. The Tana Rabbanan quote, the sages learned, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Says the Gemara, Ad kan tzrichim kavonas halev. Divrei Rebbe Meir. Rebbe Meir says, it is until the end of this sentence of Echad that one has to have kavanat halev, intent of the heart. You have to make your heart be attentive to the Shema. Omer Rava, comes along Rava, v'halacha ki Rebbe Meir. So in other words, the law is like Rebbe Meir. In other words, if you say Baruch Shem and the Ohafta, and you don't have Kavanat Halev, you still fulfill your obligation of Shema. Now, the rest of the paragraph pretty much is a very long, parentheses about challenging this idea of Kavanat Halev. So let's continue. So I'm just giving you an outline, okay? He's gonna end his question towards the end of the paragraph, but it's a very long one. So just bear with us. The Rebbe says, since Reb Meir says there's Kavanas Halev, I want to inform you there's something else called Kavanat Hamoach. There is also kavana of the moyach, of the mind, the kavanas halev, and they're two separate things. Kavanas hamoach, the kavana of the mind, he has soga sichlis, its intellectual comprehension, mashem yageya moichoi lohavin ulahasik inyin sichli. It is the exertion of the mind to comprehend and understand an intellectual concept. Until he stands upon it, meaning he dwells on it. And he understands it with all its details. That's Kavanas HaMoach. Okay? Kavanas HaMoach doesn't mean meditation in the sense of, meditation that we know. Kavanas HaMoach means using your brains, your seichel, to understand all the details. Now, the Kavanas Halev, what is Kavanas Halev? Kavana of the heart, hu lahavi hasagosoi hatoiva mehakoyach al hapoel b'midas toivos. It is to bring one's good comprehension from potential to actual through good midos, through good behavior and character. That's what he says of kavanas halev. You hear? That's not kavanas hamoyach. In other words, kavanas halev, Avi, is not about the brain. Kavanas halev is about making the heart follow the brain, be impacted by the brain, and actually concretizing it in midas tovos, in good midas. V'hainu, the first thing has to be that a person should search, chakira, lachkor. You have to look and find any and all no good midas. Umikolshke mida meguna, and needless to say, not only is it if it's not good, but it's disgusting. Lo akra ulisharsha, to uproot it and to remove it. Asher bal teroe bal temotzi. Familiar language regarding Pesach, that there shouldn't be a drop of chometz be seen and be found. The Rebbe employs the same wordage for a midah lo tova and a midah meguna. Get rid of any trace of this. It shouldn't be seen and it shouldn't be found. And the thing that's no good, whether it's between man and God, whether it's between man and friend, it should be disgusting to the person. And all of his effort and his shtadlus, it should be to plant within himself midas tovos v'anhogas yeshoris, good midas and proper conduct. All this, Hillel, is kavanas halev, not kavanas hamoyach. So right here you see that kavanas halev is not small change. Kavanas halev is a very active, proactive activity to get rid of midas loy tovos and to plant within yourself midas tovos. Right there.
It reminds me of the concept in psychology of emotional intelligence. What he's talking about. Okay,
since I'm not familiar with what you mean, would you please elaborate?
Well, just for a long time in the history of psychology was really measured by cognitive function, by mental faculties. And in recent decades has emerged the idea that there are multiple kinds of intelligences, and one of them is an emotional intelligence. The ability to recognize your emotions, the ability to recognize emotions in others, sensitivities of that nature.
But as part of the mind, emotional intelligence.
I think that historically, the idea, these two kinds of qualities of a human being were poetically described in the mind as the mind and the heart. Since he's using the idea of kavana here, linking the two, this one, kavanas halev, sounds analogous to what psychologists call emotional intelligence.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, who was the father of that thinking? Do you know the name?
I think the main name in emotional intelligence was somebody named Howard Gardner.
Okay, thank you.
A big person who talks about it a lot today is Daniel Goleman.
Goleman, okay.
He used to be the editor of Psychology Today magazine.
Yashakoya, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, weiter. Zeo kavodas halev, and this is what we mean, kavanat halev, the intent of the heart, lechavenes liboy, to make your heart attentive. In other words, it's not just, it's an avodah. You understand? I want to make this clear so you guys have to understand. We're not talking about a meditation. We're not talking here about, just sit with your feet crossed or close your eyes and cry or laugh. No. We're talking about thinking, what midah that I have is not nice. What midah is nice? How do I get rid of it? So that's l'chavenes liboy. Make your heart be attentive and to be sensitized to midas low toivos and midas toivos, and because it's coming from the kavonas hamoach, you're schlepping the kavonas hamoach into the kavonas halev, then the lev now is a very, very healthy lev. And this, yes, Yonson.
The word kavanas is going to be direction, that the heart knows according to the directions of the mind.
Right. Excellent. Exactly. The word lechaven is libe, to direct the heart. The libe polig lechol shaifin. It says the heart expands itself, spreads itself to all sides. The blood, no. So to spiritually, lahavi kol mida toiva lepoel mamish. It is the heart that will bring a good character trait to all over, to be actualized. Lepoel mamish. Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Hu Yediyah V'Asogas. This is to comprehend and understand. Achdus Haboirei Boirechu. Top of next page 202. Right? The Zeu Peiru Shema Yisrael. Shema is 3 taichen. So he brings one of the taichen. She Yisrael, that you Jew, that us Yidden, Yishma, we should hear. V'yovid v'yasik, and comprehend. Ki Hashem Elokeinu, that Yudke Vovke is Elokeinu, our God. The Elokeinu, what does it mean, our God? Hainu Kolcheinu V'chayoseinu. Our koyach, our strength, and our chayas, our vitality is Hashem. Who? Havaya, Yudke Vovke. Hashem Elokeinu. Not that, what is our chayas yoni? Nature, but our real chayas is the supernatural represented by the Yudke Vovke. Let's see how he says it inside. What does the word Elokim mean? The word Elokim, and it brings a pasuk, ukemoi shekoso v'seilei ha'aretz lokach, and the mighty of the land he took. So what do we see, Yairi? That the word Elokim, which is associated with the word Elei, means might, strength. So we say Hashem Elokeinu. Hashem is our koyach, our strength. The word Elei denotes power and strength. V'Elokim b'gematria teva. We know that the word Elokim, its numerical equivalent is the nature. Shebechol davar udavar haritivoy hu koychoy. Every item, every physical matter, all of material, what is its koyach? It's nature. The way Hashem creates everything in its natural form, that's its koyach. So what are we saying? Can't go further. Yet here in the Shema, listen to this guy, this is a revolutionary. We're saying Hashem Elokeinu. Our koyach is not teva, nature, but rather Yudke Vovke. What a chiddush, right? Yaini, what's the nature of a bed to sleep on normally? Imagine you'll say the nature of the bed is that it was created by God, the life force and all of that. I mean, that's not the norm. And the Rebbe says, I know. But when it comes, that's why we are not only saying words, we're learning the words, and we have to meditate and think, Shema Yisrael, hear Israel, hear Yid, I the Yid. Listen, pay attention. Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Elokeinu, first. By us Yidden, Hashem Elokeinu. Verstehst? Hashem is our koyach. If we get cut off, the battery is low, and I don't want to change it now. I don't know where it is, so please forgive me. So let's continue. So he says, the hakoyach v'achayas Yisrael hu Hashem. What's the real koyach and chayas of a yid? It's yudke vovke. Hainu mashil amayla ma'teva. It's what transcends nature. The teva who hamukder bizmanu mokim. Because nature itself is limited to time and space. To time and space. The hamukder b'mokim umukbu bagboleisav. Something that's limited by space is limited. V'cheinu bizman, so too regarding time. Shemukbul b'hagbola the over oivasit. Right, time is limited by past, present, and future. V'Hashem and Yudke Vovke, who hoya v'yik echad, it's past, present, and future, all like one. Shulamayla min hamoke b'lamayla min hazman, that it's above space and above time, transcendence. V'zeu Hashem Elokeinu, and this is the real meaning of Hashem Elokeinu. Tomorrow morning, Chevra, when you daven, I want you to stop and I want you to think about this. This is a very important thing about every time you say Shema. And if you need to daven earlier a little bit, start 5 minutes. Give yourself 5 minutes, 3 minutes to think about this thought here. Because this will ingrain in you, and do it every day, the rest of your life, every single day. And every time you say Shema in the morning, take a minute, 2 or 3, to think about Hashem Elokeinu. And finally you'll see, all of a sudden, you will realize and feel that Hashem Elokeinu. So even when things are not that great, chas v'sholem, and issues and problems, Hashem Elokeinu, Yudke Vovke. Let's continue. And he says, V'zeu Havai Elokeinu, the hateva di Yisrael, that the nature of a Jew, who the badvolis, who's manamokim, which consists of time and place, yamshichu ha'oir v'agilu shelamayla b'zmanamokim. What we're doing during Shema, Moshe, is working on drawing down the transcendence, the Yud Kei Vav Kei, which transcends nature into nature. Hashem Elokeinu, who is the real, and is Hashem. And this answers, this whole concept puts the perspective that we as Yidden can do anything and everything. There's nothing that can stop us because we have we are Yud Kei Vav Kei. And it's a big chiddush. 1 second here, it's a big chiddush. Because normally the issue is nature. And in addition to nature, you get a glimpse from the supernatural. The Rebbe says just the opposite. The real truth is that we're Yud Kei Vav Kei. And the nature is only secondary. You hear that? Yes, I listen.
It's a very interesting story that they were teaching war strategies at a Marine base in America. And they were discussing various wars and how the general came to the war. And one guy mentioned that the 6-Day War. So he said, the general who was teaching, he said the 6-Day War was a miraculous war that God fought. And we don't teach God over here.
That's good. Yes, Hillel.
No, I just...
That was good. That was good. Anyway, Chevra, thank you. So I would like to hear a report tomorrow how your Hashem Elokeinu went in your Shema. You know that I'm going to ask you. Tomorrow's Yud Beis Tammuz. It's a great day to discuss that. And that's what got the Frierdiker about, Yoni. If Frierdiker Rebbe would have not lived with Hashem Elokeinu, he would never make it out. I promise you. But he was a person who lived with Hashem Elokeinu, he got out. And it's for us, in our way, this is the what? What'd you say?
We can discuss it tomorrow at length.
Yes, at length. So I can everyone. Have a good day. Take care. Tzlocha. Bye. Bye-bye.